Hello, hello, and welcome. Welcome on into the swear word. I'm your host, Brandon Swear, and hey, this is a podcast for the chilihead community by the chilihead community. Regardless of your spice tolerance, this is the place for you. Man, we have an amazing episode here tonight. If you are looking for some great spicy jams, a great lineup of hot sauce, tonight we will be diving into Texan Heartland. So, episode 86 starts now. Welcome on in, Swear Nation. So glad to have everyone here. Whether you're tuning in on YouTube, Spotify, Rumble, or Apple Podcast, thank you so much for being here and making the show what it is. Continue to share this out with other like-minded chili heads or just individuals that are curious about the world of hot, because this is the place that they can come for everything to do with the world of hot. So we have an amazing sauce here on deck for Hot or Not from Texan Heartland, and we're going to be diving into that, as well as we have JP Clark from Texan Heartland here. We're going to learn about his journey, how he got started, and what got him to where he's at today and where the future's looking. If you also want to play along, we have a very fun iteration of the 5 teed up for JP. And if you would have answered that slightly different than he did, please let me know in the comments. It's always fun to have that interaction going on. If you enjoyed Tuesday night's episode talking about utilizing items that you might already have around your house or items that you can get for free to really maximize your grow potential, or if there's another topic that you're extremely interested in and want to learn more about, drop that in the comments down below, and I'll continue to tee up these more topic focused podcasts for everyone. Let's go ahead and do this. Let's go ahead and jump on over to Hot or Not. Welcome on into Hot or Not. So glad to have everyone here. If this is your first time checking out Hot or Not or the podcast, I do things slightly different here. I do it based off not a 1 to 10 scale. I use a 1 out of 5. Those are based off of 5 different categories. Those categories are heat, aroma, flavor, versatility, and burn. Add those up, average them out, and that gives us our total swear word rating. So another thing I also do not like to do is take a look at the ingredients that are on the bottle ahead of time. I really like to let my taste buds do that exploration and really hone in on what I can taste. So, with that being said, here is a close-up of the Texan Heartland bottle here. As you can see, very nice visual appeal. Love what's going on with this one. Very clean, easy digestible, but also attention grabbing at the same time. Let's go ahead and we'll get this one opened up here. Give it a good shake. Let's talk through this as well. So on the label, the visual appeal, you got a plate of tacos in the back, some onions, some brisket. You got a bowl of salsa on the top on the table, hot sauce on the table. Then you also have some chopped up peppers, some whole peppers, some garlic. Man, I'm loving the overall visual representation that this is giving. Just a great feel going on here. And of course, Texan Heartland. So as far as the color on this sauce, as you can see here, a nice bright red, almost kind of a dark red, but bright red with some what looks like some either cracked pepper or some roasted peppers or something kind of charred going on in there. It looks like a little bit of maybe that's a seed in there. Hard to tell. Let's see if I can shake it and see what's going on. Definitely seeing some spices and some other bits going on in there. From a flow representation, hard to gauge it right here off of that. But for all those that are keeping track, there is a perforated tear on the cellophane. But of course, I like to use my knife. I'm going to go ahead and get that popped off there. Get that cap thrown off to the side. Give it a good shake and open it up. Let's get into this one. Nice pop, great seal on that. Wow. Very savory, the depth of this, you're getting that nice, almost smoky pepper note that's coming through. It smells like maybe Ah, man, that is so magical on the nose. The overall aroma that I'm gathering smells of like onion, some garlic, definitely some kind of potentially some dried peppers is kind of that smoky note that I'm getting, or maybe it's just fire roasted peppers or a fire roasted ingredient of some sort. Very nice depth and body on this sauce. But let's go ahead and check out the pour here. So, as you can see here, nice thick consistency, nice hold to the sauce. Definitely one that once it gets going, it's going. Get a hearty tablespoon there. And this is, once again, this is the Lone Star Reserve from Texan Heartland. And I cannot wait to dive into this. Oh, wow. Wow. It really just opens up from an aroma standpoint on the spoon. The more surface area hitting, you're really able to get that savory depth, that kind of that slightly smoky note that's coming through. There is a bit of a unique complexity to this. There's some ingredient in there that I can't wait to get into while trying this because I think I'm smelling it, but I'm not 100% certain. But here we go. Hmm. Oh my goodness. Slosh that around a little bit more. That is magical. Definitely picking it up now. So I thought I was smelling it, wasn't completely certain that that was it. The flavor profile tells me that it is there. Absolutely amazing. Salivating like crazy. There's definitely tamarind in that. I can tell you that. I thought I smelt it, but I can definitely taste it. Absolutely magical. Let's talk through this one right off the bat. I do break things down a little bit different as far as heat and burn. You may have heard that. Heat is that first 0 to 30-second window that really kind of kicks in. Burn is that after 30 seconds, where it sits, how it sits. Does it build? Does it linger? Does it migrate? All these other things roll into burn. But heat right off the bat, you get a nice graced amount of heat that kind of hits the tongue, hits the gums, hits the roof of the mouth on the front half, and really just kind of lashes out there, takes hold, and it's a slight sizzle. It's not anything that's going to completely destroy you, but it is definitely going to let you know it's a hot sauce. It's definitely going to let you know that it's there. Absolutely amazing. The overall flavor on this one as you're getting into this sauce, you're really graced with that great, very calm, kind of creamy, very inviting, soothing, savory notes that are coming through. As those start to come in, you get a nice trade-off of that going into what tastes like maybe some roasted peppers, or maybe there's some dehydrated peppers that have been rehydrated because it gives it that almost smoky, earthy, very nice pairing to that tamarind that I'm picking up as well. You're getting some nice onions, some garlic. I mean, absolutely phenomenal. There might be a little cut of citrus towards the finish on that, but absolutely loving this one here. Interested to see as far as what's in here because I'm gonna go ahead and think that maybe this is going to be a multiple pepper heat source going on in this sauce. Just really love what's going on here. Screams, what I would expect. Getting when I'm gonna go slather up my tacos, or gonna be going to a barbecue place, lathering this up on a nice brisket sandwich or on a burger, on a pizza. I mean, the hold on this sauce is absolutely phenomenal. So you don't have to worry about it running off if you are slathering it up on a slice of pizza. You don't have to worry about it running off the edge of your pizza. Um, you know, as far as versatility goes, we've already kind of hit on some of the things that I think I would gravitate towards. But that doesn't mean that that's everything that it could go on. The only thing I probably would not gravitate towards using this on would be something like a dessert. It's not really geared towards that, not really its intent. So, no harm, no foul there. Definitely love what's going on. As far as the burn goes, as the initial heat really starts to dial back, you lose the front of the gums and the tongue from the initial heat. I was trying to gauge if it's, where it's still sitting. So right now I can feel it more just towards what would that be? That would be more like the middle of the mouth, the middle of the tongue, kind of the roof of the mouth right there as well. It's just kind of sitting there parked, a slight sizzle as it's starting to fade away. Absolutely phenomenal. Salivating like crazy. The flavor on this sauce is insane. I love it. Absolutely love it. And definitely love myself a tamarind sauce. And I can tell you that it's in there without even having to look at this right now. I can tell you that it's there because it is one of those ingredients that I do like to see. It has been one of my more recent favorite ingredients to find in products. So as far as the overall, just burn and heat level of this sauce, like how that would break down. If you're just starting out, you're going to notice that this is obviously a hot sauce. It might be a little bit much if you are brand new. This is your first bottle ever. It might be just a hair much for your comfort level. But pairing this with food, not eating this just straight, you're going to be able to really cut down on the overall heat that is delivered from this sauce, and you will be able to still enjoy it. So in moderation, work your way up, find out where you're comfortable, continue to add more because you're going to want to add more. Absolutely flavorful. If you are constantly working on your own personal best, you're working on pushing yourself, your tolerance is really getting built up, this is going to be a nice mild to medium sauce depending on where your tolerance is at. I definitely can see this one going phenomenal, like I said, with so many things. My brain is just running wild with all of the possibilities, and I'm looking forward to pairing this one up here very soon. So let's do this. Let's go ahead and we will read off some ingredients here. So for Lone Star Reserve from Texan Heartland, we have ingredients of white vinegar, red bell peppers, cayenne peppers, white onion, honey, garlic, avocado oil, kosher salt. There it is. Tamarind paste, smoked paprika, ground mustard seed, black pepper, and turmeric powder. Absolutely phenomenal. I thought for sure that there was going to be a fire roasted pepper or a dried pepper that's been invigorated. I guess maybe the smoked paprika could kind of give me that same overall flavor profile that I was picking up from the pepper side, because it definitely had that smoky, slightly earthy note. And then that cayenne, it definitely makes sense why it's hitting, where it's hitting, why it's burning, how it's burning. So that definitely brings forward, but really pairing that white onion, that honey, the bell pepper, the tamarind paste, and that mustard seed, man, oh man, with that splash of turmeric, that is the flavor bomb right there. Lone Star Reserve from Texan Heartland. As these last few numbers get input here for Lone Star Reserve from Texan Heartland, I do want to go ahead and mention this. It tastes almost to me like a nice Texas rendition of a buffalo sauce. It has absolutely all the great creamy, smoky, savory depth notes that are going on through this. A nice kiss of heat that really carries forward. I could absolutely see myself lathering this up on all kinds of foods, and I bet you this would be phenomenal with wings. But let's go ahead and read off some scores here. So for Lone Star Reserve from Texan Heartland, we have heat coming in at 2.89, aroma of 4.17, flavor of 4.32, versatility of a 4, burn of a 3.12, and a total swear word rating of 3.7. There we go. Another amazing sauce. This, once again, is from Texan Heartland. This is the Lone Star Reserve. I will have the direct links down below for it, as well as a link to the main site so you can check out the full lineup. Hey, JP, how's it going?
How are you, Brandon? It's a good day. Glad to be here.
I'm glad to have you here. Looking forward to diving in. I've heard amazing things from Adam over at Wicked Provisions about you, about what you have going on. So eager to learn more about Texan Heartland.
I'm looking forward to it. What can I share with you?
Yeah. So one thing I always like to lead off with is, what got you into the world of spice, and what was that moment that you decided, I'm going to go ahead and start making my own product?
This story goes way back. Texan Heartland came into existence July 3rd of 2023, but it actually started long before that. There was a breakfast place in Northwest Houston, and I go ahead and breakfast with some guys I work with on a regular basis, and they have this great red sauce. And I kind of went on a bit of a health kick, lost some weight, and I wanted to try and recreate that sauce here at the house, right? So I'm gonna make some healthy breakfast tacos. It was an arbol sauce. And through May and June, I kept Googling, looking for recipes, tried a bunch of stuff, hated it, kept dumping it out. And one day I came across something and it tasted pretty good. I'm like, oh, wow. And I put it in my wife's Tupperware and I took it to work and I gave it to the guys at work and they took it home. And they came back the next day and they're like, wow, the family really liked it. I'm like, well, I'll make you some more. Well, that was July, I don't know, July 1st, something like that. And I come home and I get ready to start making another batch. And I was like, well, quit putting it in my daggum Tupperware. You're giving away my Tupperware, right? I'm like, fine, I'll go to Amazon and buy some bottles. And I bought these 8-ounce square bottles and I all excited and I make another batch and I put it in the bottle. I'm like, look, honey. And she goes, you going to sell them? I'm like, hell no, it's just for the guys at work. You won't let me put it in your Tupperware. And I did the mistake of taking a picture of it and putting it up on a local Facebook group, Cypress Area Foodies. And I'm like, hey, I'm so excited. I made this sauce. It's kind of reminiscent of Mex tacos up here in Cyprus. And I'm just so proud of myself, right? And I had 5 people said they wanted to buy it. And I'm like, wait, what happened? So the next morning was July 3rd. I'll never forget. It was Monday. And I woke up about 4 o'clock. I'm like, well, if I'm going to sell it to one of these people, can I even legally do that? That's when I learned about cottage laws and what you have to do and blah, 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 blah. I go to Amazon, I buy a pH meter. It shows up the next day. I tested it. It's barely legal. I mean, I kid you not, I think it was like 4.2 on the pH scale. I was using house tap water, right? But it was legal by Texas standards to sell. So my first transaction was in a parking lot. And I'm texting the guy. I'm like, yeah, I got your stuff. You got some cash. It was like I was doing a daggone drug deal right in this parking lot, right? And I'll never forget this guy. He says, I'm going to tell you, I'm a hot sauce connoisseur. I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know it was a thing. And he goes, I'm going to tell you what I think of it. And I came home and I said, yeah, he's going to beat it up. I don't know what I'm doing. But turns out he liked it. And so I'm like, well, okay. So for the first few months, I just sold it to people at work. I'd make a sauce. Someone would ask for a green sauce. I'd make a green sauce. And the next thing I know, I had, half a dozen different flavors I was making for people that I work with. Well, that first customer, he and I became friends, and I was changing jobs, so my market was disappearing. And he goes, well, you need to go to farmers markets. I didn't know what farmers markets were. And so I'll never forget it, September 24th, we're just a few months old. We went to the first farmers market, and some people liked the sauce. And that's what launched the whole thing. It was an accident, right? And so for just a year and a half now, every day I'm pushing. Of course, we operated cottage for the first basically year of our operations. My wife and I would make it in the kitchen. I mean, we'd be making 4 or 5 cases at a time. The entire kitchen was completely inundated. The house smelled like peppers 24 hours a day. But with a name like Texan Heartland, right, the whole thing came into existence on July 3rd. The web domain, the LLC, everything. And then I said, well, if I'm going to do this, I'm really going to learn it. So I spent a year just learning, pushing. I was looking at some stuff last night and I realized that 40% of the products that we ever came up with have long since been gone already, right? Try stuff and it doesn't work. And now we're really trying to push and get to that level of flavor that, so many people out there, Adam obviously is one of them. I know you've had Zach on here, Clowns on Fire and others. And how those guys do what they do is amazing. It's like maybe one day I'll have something, to this caliber, right? And I think we're getting there, right? But it's round the clock, trying, experimenting, learning, and growing. And of
Yep.
course, the jams, right? We move into that space. So we're just don't give up. Just don't give up.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And to the note that you had mentioned earlier about kind of feeling like it was a shady drug deal, only of the spiciest caliber. So that's very cool. And at the same time, the way you started out, the way that things were going, really being able to craft and create these based on ultimately others that you're working with, and so on and so forth. That initial testing pool is great for innovation, for growth, for all that. And the real trial, it sounds like you were able to experience really quick by being able to have that first sale happen and have a complete and total stranger just come up and grab your sauce, try it, and tell you what they think. That moment, how was that for you whenever you got the word back on it?
Oh, it was nerve wracking, utterly nerve wracking, right? I came home and, by then, of course, I'd paid the fees to the state for an LLC and spent my $40 for a pH meter, right? And had my safety class, right? My food safety class. I'm like, this is going to be shut down before it even works, right? And I won't use his exact words. He goes, he had some feedback. And if you go back to the beginning of my Instagram, you'll see that picture. How anyone wanted to buy that was insane. But he says, all I hope is one day you make something that's bleeping hot, right? Well, we've since gone there, right? Yep. And he's got some nicknames for some of our hottest, which I won't say on here. We've gone down that route, but it was just nerve wracking. I didn't sleep much, but then he texted me the next day, and he bought 2 bottles, and he goes, well, I don't know what the hell it means, but one bottle's already gone and the next one's already half gone. I'm like, okay, right? But that's one person, right?
Yep.
Someone had told me that there's a person for every hot sauce and there's a hot sauce for every person, right?
Absolutely.
But if you want to try and base a business, you can't base it on one person. I can tell you every flavor we've ever nixed, there was always at least one person disappointed, right? But that doesn't drive a business. And you've got to call yourself out. And if you're a chef, if you're like an Adam or some of these other folks, or a genius like Zach that just seems to come up with, gold every time. If you're a normal person like me, it takes work. And you've got to say, well, yeah, some people like this and maybe I do, but it's not going to have the appeal to a broader audience. And that's what we're really pushing on right now.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I guess to that point as well, over the time of really trial and error in weeding out certain sauces, has there been an ingredient that's really stood out that you're like, it doesn't seem to line up with what I want to do?
Doesn't line up. I won't say doesn't line up, but there's a certain place for it. For an example, one of our latest products, right? We've started kind of going into that, that savory umami flavor, right? And that is a very unique flavor, which I like. It has very specific purposes, but I certainly wouldn't use it, say, on a breakfast sauce, right? So it's, and again, for someone that's not culinary trained like me, it's going through and experimenting and then think, what would I put this on, right? What's the breadth of it? And then finding those right places, because you got to have a story for the sauce. Someone's going to say, what am I going to put this on, right? You better have some good answers, right?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and to that point, I will definitely state, well, there's a lot of sauce manufacturers that are out there, that pour out their love and their soul in what they're making. When it comes time to applications, either they haven't had the time to really try it on many different things, or maybe they know what they like and they kind of stick to the dishes they like, which then kind of limits the responses that are able to give out. But that's where really being able to connect with your consumers, being able to connect with the audience, the broader audience, to really be able to grasp an understanding of what your sauces are best applicable for, really makes it stand out. Because I've had quite a few conversations with others that are in a similar boat. They're like, man, you know what? This sauce is relatively new. I'm not really certain what it would go on best. And then, I'm able to try it, or at least even most times just see the ingredients and be able to say, okay, well, I can already tell you this is gonna be great on this. And, really being able to hone in and lean on that feedback. Do you ever ask anyone as far as like, what's their favorite dish that they've used your product on?
My starting line, usually when people walk up to the booth, at the farmer's market, and we've got all the products out, our jams and our hot sauces, we've got placards on every one. So on every one of them, we talk about the ingredients and what it pairs with. But usually my first question is, what are you eating tonight?
Mm-hmm.
because usually I'll be able to point them in one of the directions. And then my next question is, what level of heat do you like, right? If you don't like heat, but you're making wings, I'm not going to point you to my Reaper sauce, right?
Yep.
I'm not going to point you there. So yes, and then to the extent that sometimes I'm looking for ideas, there's some folks I'll run it by that are chefs, right? And I say, here's what I'm thinking, right? And I'll send them some, and I'll see what they come up with, right? And the ideas that they get, right, for how to use it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's such a great avenue to be able to tap into. It's the idea that you don't always have to be the smartest man in the room. You just have to know the right people, right? And no shame in that. I mean, hey, a lot of great businesses are ran that way. It's all about delegation and trust in your team. So, yeah. It's so as far as ingredients that you have worked well with, since we just touched on ones that kind of didn't line up quite as well, has there been an ingredient that just like soars? It absolutely rings beautifully in anything you work with.
One of the things that I found, it's not the ingredient itself, but it's the nature of the ingredient. So take garlic, right, as an example, right? To use a smoked garlic, or take paprika as an example, to use a smoked paprika. In many of our flavors, right? Those are usually the things that make the difference. Whether we're using a ground ingredient or something like that, I'll usually go towards the smoked versions, right? Or when we're using fresh peppers, fresh onions, fresh garlic, right? To actually oven roast them, right? I wouldn't say it's the ingredient, but it's treatment, right? It's processing.
Yep. Okay. Now the pairings that you personally, so I guess to quickly step away for a second on the
Mm-hmm.
hot sauce and talk about the jams that you have going on. What first and foremost, what jam did you start out with? What was the OG jam to have, and where has this kind of taken us since
Uh,
then?
the OG jam was a sweet pepper jam, which we don't actually make anymore.
Okay.
It was red, orange, and green bell pepper, and the smallest amount of jalapeno that they were infinitely diced into quarter-inch cubes. And then that was apple cider vinegar and sugar. So it was hyper sweet, right? And back then, I mean, I made that back in 2023 when we were still homemade. And I said, well, we make things with peppers. Let's make a jam with peppers, right?
Yeah.
And it was good. People liked it, right? But as other things, my wife kept saying, you need to go into fruit. I'm like, well, if I go into fruit, I'm going with peppers, right? So one of the first fruit one was a strawberry jalapeno, just enough to be able to taste it, right? We had at one point in time, I had a pure jalapeno jam, and then I had a pure habanero jam. That was hot. I mean, it was really, really hot. But again, limited audiences, right? And I really wanted to kind of broaden the space. And so we started moving, like I say, the fruits. Then we came up with the raspberry habanero, the pineapple habanero. Habanero just goes so well with fruit. We were
Absolutely.
surprised when the cinnamon one we just launched, and I'm working on it right now. We've got the first out in a brand new line with no peppers at all. But again, aligning to the brand, I wanted to do something that was different. So I wanted to do alcohol infused. And that first one is that blueberry royale, right? That's blueberries, lemon zest, vanilla, and Grand Marnier liqueur. Yes, it's expensive, right? Grand Marnier is expensive.
Yeah.
I've got a couple others here that actually I've just finished up final testing on. These are going to be going out here in the next couple of months to round out that alcohol infused line.
Yeah, I mean your jam lineup, the names, the visuals, everything that you're seeing here is so eye appealing, so stomach appealing from a hunger standpoint, that it seems like these things are a home run. Obviously, without trying them, I'm not completely certain how the pairings would go, but just looking at this here, that vanilla strawberry jalapeno, like, oh my goodness. Talk about absolutely a dessert masterpiece to add on, anything. I can just really see that really shining through,
Well,
pairing with like even a fudgy brownie, on top of like you could pair that even with a ice cream sandwich. Like if you were to take fresh cookies, make your slab of ice cream in the center, and then lather that on top as like a glaze to the cookie. Oh my
mhm.
goodness.
You mentioned brownie, one of the ones I'm getting ready to launch. It will go fantastic with chocolate. Most of the people are using the hot jams and even the strawberry and mild. They're using them in charcuterie boards with cream cheese, brie, goat cheese. We've got a local restaurant with a catering business, and they use all of them for their charcuterie boards that they do for the catering business. The blueberry, absolutely dessert. Pancakes, waffles, ice cream. I think I probably gained 5 pounds as I was developing that one with all the ice cream I ate. My local place where I get my fajitas, I brought it in there because I'll let them try stuff as I'm testing stuff. And one of the people says, "You have to put that in our margarita."
Yeah, yeah. I mean, mixed drinks.
So,
These all look like they would be winners.
yeah. Well, one of them is so far. We submitted last year, so kind of proud of that.
Yeah, yeah. No, definitely the cinnamon raspberry habanero. Man,
Yeah.
that just sounds magical. But okay, okay. Now we've with the jams and everything that you have going on. Just really kind of draws in, like, are you growing all these peppers yourself? How are you going about that? Are you connecting with other Texas farmers?
So, with the exception of our Superhot peppers, I'm still sourcing everything at our local grocer.
Okay.
They know me well, so if I go in, I'll say, yeah, I need 10 pounds of habaneros, or 5 pounds of poblanos, or 5 pounds of tomatillos or something, right? I'm still working with my local grocer, and of course, I call them, tell them what I need, because sometimes they might not have it. They'll order it for me. We're still that small. We're micro batch. Every one of these sauces, the biggest batch that we'll ever run right now is 12 cases. The jams, we're still hurting with that one, right? We're 2 to 4 cases per run, right? We
Yeah.
are that small still. You
Yeah.
look a lot bigger than we are.
Well, that's not a bad thing. Being able to have a very good, strong online presence is a major key component, definitely for when individuals find you out at these, farmers markets, etc., and they are trying to discover your brand. Being able to look up and find your brand and find the strong presence of who you are, what you do, and this very clean story allows for that that level of trust and everything else to really shine through. Love being able to see what everyone else is saying and what's going on. As far as your jams, I guess one of the last things I'll touch on before we can kind of shift back over, because I my brain's always turning and churning on this, but uh, jams are notorious for utilizing a lot of fruit. Um, you know, how are you able to even just process that much at one
Uh,
time?
so I'm lucky the stores, and we also use Restaurant Depot for some of the largest stuff, right? We're buying it, 10-pound boxes at a time.
Okay, and it's just you and your wife making all this, or
Oh, the jams is all me. Yeah, she'll help me jar, but yeah, it's me. I do have a girl. She's wonderful. Helps me cook the hot sauces, because at that size, I can't do it myself, right? But I still manufacture personally every one of these jars.
yeah, wow, man, yeah, that was just a huge time commitment right there, just on the
Definitely. Yeah.
jams alone.
I
Like I s
tell people that my day job, right? My day job is a full time corporate work from home job. It's 40 hours a week. I tell people that's my part time job.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I believe it with the hours that you would have to put in just to be able to have this thing pull off and work out well. All right. Now, with the hot sauce line, obviously you have the white labels and the black labels. For all those that are watching and listening, can you explain what's the difference that they're going to find whenever they're looking at a white label versus a black label here?
So what we call our traditional, right? There's two drivers, right? Number one was level of heat, but it was also right because again, we'll source a lot of the stuff at the grocery store. Some of it we have to go outside, right? So like our mashes, right? We'll get some mash from one location, some other mash from another, right? That's expensive, right? So
Yep.
there's also been somewhat of a price difference between the two. But it was an easy visual way of separating our audience from the crazy hot stuff to the more normal flavors. And we're really trying to focus more on the normal flavors. I know we were at the Hops and Hot Sauce Festival, and there were a lot. I mean, all the greats were there, right? Here in the region, and people would come up, and people would try everything, and we happened to be towards the front of the show, and of course, people always say, "What's the hottest you make?" And that pineapple blaze and the roasted onion and garlic reaper are both made with Carolina Reaper pepper mash. and they would come back around and say, "Yeah, we can tell you that that Reaper was the hottest thing in the show." And so
Absolutely.
it's
That
a
looks
unique
amazing.
audience, right? And so it's an easy way of differentiating audiences. If you're not a pepperhead, you want to stay away from the black labels, right?
Yeah.
So that's the way of kind of isolating that audience from the broader audience that's looking for stuff to cook with, right? That maybe you want to make a chicken veggie stir fry or some shrimp tacos or something like that, right? I guess some could use the black labels, but it's an easy way of differentiating the product lines and the level of heat.
Yeah, definitely. The beauty of it is that's a very common question that comes up through the podcast, whether that be a comment after the show or, a follow-up question that happens on social media when someone's already seen it and they're trying to track down and figure things out. They'll always ask, "Hey, what is the hottest, product from this person, and do they make anything for chili heads distinctly?" And to be able to have that there and be able to direct is going to be very phenomenal and easy. And as long as everyone's watching and paying attention right now, they're going to be able to see this answer for themselves
Yeah.
on this situation. So,
We
yeah,
learned that lesson the hard way.
yeah. Well, and it's you've talked about having a whole bunch of different different iterations of different sauces and kind of getting rid of some over time and everything. As you're going, obviously you got to have a tolerance to be able to try and to hone in and figure out these things. I guess first and foremost, how how do you go about deciding when a hot is hot enough for that jump from traditional to the black label, and then also where is your preferred heat level?
Um, that's an interesting question. When those black labels were developed, right, those particular recipes, it was obviously earlier, right, in where I was, and back then I wanted to make hot, right, flavorful but hot. And so, my Reaper, there's flavor there, right? It's not heat for the sake of heat. I've experienced that. It wasn't fun. I think if I did it over again, I'd probably do it differently, right? Because they are hot. I don't know that I would say they're balanced. There's plenty of flavor, but you know what we've learned? I think if I do another Reaper sauce, it's going to be very different today, right? Because again, you ask where I'm at, and I'm kind of in the middle. I do like heat, but I also, I'm learning how to pair it really well with foods, right? Now, my Reaper sauce, right? So, like, if I go out with that and I go have nachos, I'm dabbing that on the nachos. And even there, I'm still sweating. I don't want to build that tolerance up because I want to keep my tolerance kind of where the top of that bell curve is, so to speak, right? So, I don't want to push myself over there because then I'll skew what I'm trying to do down the road, right? My wife is a good call out because she does not like heat. And so, I'll use her as a gauge and compare her to where I'm at and then try and dial up or dial things down depending on my goal, right?
Yep.
One of the ones I'm working on right now, I'm actually trying to get that as mild as possible. And even she said it can be hotter. And I said, no, that's not where I want to take that one. That'll be coming out. So, I try and stay in the middle of the road, right? And it's interesting. I'm actually trying to I was more aligned, I think, with the pepperhead mentality and the level of heat maybe a year ago than where I am today because I'm trying to really broaden this audience, right, for Texan Heartland and for the brand.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Absolutely makes sense, obviously. And you're having that differentiating, that distinguishing factor between the two different types of the line really allows for people to feel that level of, comfort and familiarity in one avenue. And then all those others that are looking to really turn up the heat know exactly where they can go and find,
Yeah.
just that nice punch that they're looking for. Um, okay. Now, yeah, oftentimes we'll hear in the podcast chat, whether that be on the live or in the premieres, rolling through. There's quite a few individuals that love to douse popcorn in hot sauce. Do you happen to have a hot sauce that you can think of that might lend itself best to that?
To popcorn,
Yep.
I don't even know what that would taste like.
It's pretty magical. I've tried it a few times, but
Actually,
there's
you know what? Now that you say that, I have heard somebody say that. You know, it'd probably be one of the reds. If you're Latin, I might lean towards arbol because that has very distinct Latin flavors, with the arbol
yep,
peppers.
very smoky, very earthy, but
Yeah,
nice punch.
but ours also has a hint of sweet.
Okay.
I'm trying to think if the Lone Star would go there, but that's going to have a savory flavor. You know what? I might have to get some popcorn and try them both.
I like it. I like the idea of the experiment and being able to dive in on that. Now with the sauces that you have coming out, I know that you've recently made the shift, like you're saying, from cottage to now you're fully in. What are some? You said you already kind of teased us a little bit with the sauce that's coming out here soon. Do you have any kind of plans that you're gearing up towards that you can talk about or you want to talk about?
As far as products,
Products or growth or,
well,
plans
I'll
in
talk about
general.
growth. Growth is hard, and I've made more mistakes than I've had successes. Right? You take two steps forward, you take one step back sometimes, and sometimes even more, and you realize you got to backtrack and go up. Right now, we're trying to figure out how to scale it beyond the shared kitchen. Right? We have been having some conversations, gotten a lot of great help from some wonderful people. And some of them are working and some of them aren't. So some of them we kind of got to go back to the drawing board. One of the things I'm not willing to give up on is the flavor. But when you go from making 10 or 12 or maybe even 20 cases to 40-gallon kettles, let alone 150-gallon kettles, how do you do that, right? And I hear the horror stories, and I can attest we're literally in the midst of that pain right now, right? And it's frustrating, it's hard. It just, you got to keep going, you got to keep figuring it out.
Yep.
Same thing with the jams, right? Hot sauces are easy, jams are hard. The thermodynamics of jams are infinitely more complex, and you've got more control points you've got to look at. Um, those are some big ones as well, but we'll figure it out, right? It's how to do it, and then yeah, it's painful. That's all I can say.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and then on that process of the dialing in the jams, there's many ways you can go about this. Are you of the side that really likes a nice loose jam, or do you like a very firm jam?
I'm in the middle.
Okay.
I'm in
Now,
the middle.
so basically you want enough firmness to have a solid spreadability to be able to hold without it really running off.
Yes, for the most part. The blueberry is a little softer. It's a little softer, right? That you can actually let it fall over ice cream. Um, but yes, I've actually, again, running. I mean, some days here I'm running 2 tests a day here at the house, right, to dial in the certain numbers on some of this stuff. And I kid you not, just the other day I threw out, well, there was another case literally down the drain, right, because didn't have certain numbers right. And if it pours out the jar, you don't have a jam, right? You've got a
Yep.
sauce or something, right? Just you keep testing it. So, but hot
Yeah.
sauces are pretty easy. You get pH to a certain point, cook by whatever your PA says, 200 degrees for 4 minutes, and you're good. That's it.
Heard it from quite a few others, and it's that idea of these events, these farmers markets, really even the bigger events, that it ultimately becomes a marketing avenue more so than say a product selling day, if you will. Now oftentimes a lot of individuals look towards jumping into whether that be big box stores or whatever, and they're really having to stack up not only production, how can they ramp it up, but also the availability on hand for that to happen. Is that something that's on track for you?
We're working on it. We're working on it. I know what the economics are. I know the price points, and we're not looking at the big box stores per se, but some targeted retail where we work the farmers markets. And my approach is, if I can get it into the retail where people already know us, that begins to work for us, right? And then broaden out to there. But to get even to that scale, you mentioned, right, there's a production level. Well, I know what the economics are. I know what the price point that we need to be. I know what it would cost me to produce it and the margins that they're going to want, distribution, those types of things. But it's the flavor,
Yep.
right? It's how to get the same flavor. And, I mentioned earlier, today we go into HEB, right? And I'll buy habaneros and cilantro and poblano peppers and tomatillo and all this stuff, right? How do you get that to that scale, right? and there is a transition, and some of this stuff is working and some of it's not. So we've got to go back to the drawing board on a couple of them, but we'll figure it out.
All right, all right. I like it. Well, let's do this. Let's go ahead and jump on over to the game. All right, welcome on in to a very fun iteration of the 5. Now, for all those individuals that are not familiar with this game, it's very simple. There's 5, numbers 1 through 5 on the left-hand side of the screen here. That is your ranking order. However you wish to choose to rank them, it is what it is. 1 could be the best, or 5 could be the best. The only thing is I will show one image at a time. You will lock it into place, and we will keep moving. There's no shuffling or changing. Afterwards, we'll talk about it. But the other fun thing is there's 2 rounds of this. So we will go ahead and get started with the first one here. I'll be nice. I'll bring out tacos first. Where would you like to put tacos?
Oh, I know where I want to put it, but there's 4 others. Let's put it at 2.
All right. Very safe play. I like it. All right. And then up next, we will grab coffee.
5.
5. All right. Not much of a coffee drinker?
Not a coffee drinker.
All right. Do you have any kind of a morning wake-up ritual, if you will?
Not so much. Not so much.
All right. We got In-N-Out Burger coming up next.
Where
would you like this one to be?
Let's go with 3.
All right. Fair enough.
I might regret it, but let's go with 3.
Fair enough. Well, we have summer.
Oh, summer. In Houston? 4.
Yep. Yeah, I was about to say, it's pretty hot
4.
and humid. All right.
What's my number 1?
Number 1 inherently is fall.
I'll take it. I'll take it.
So there we go. Not a bad lineup, not a bad shakeup. No, hindsight being 2020, would there be any of these you would have flipped around?
I may have flipped 4 and 5 and put summer at Houston, summer at 5.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right, here we go. Round number 2 of the 5. This is, this should go a lot smoother. You have a good understanding of how this one goes, but here we go. Up first, I had to do it again. We'll see if we'll see where you put this one now. Tacos. This one doesn't have to be this type of taco in particular, but just tacos.
Okay, I'm going to put it at 1 this time.
All right, all right. Very, very safe move, but was it a solid one here? Let's see as we go. Football up next.
College?
Any in particular.
Oh, you really got these. Oh. See, now again, I know where I want to put it. Oh. Let's go with 3, just because I don't know what else you got.
All right, I like it. Up next, we have barbecue. Good old Texas barbecue.
I knew it. Man, this is going to be tough.
It's only going to get worse. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, something tells me it's only going to get worse. I might regret it because after what you just said, let's put it at 4.
All right.
Because you said it's only going to get worse. So
I may have tried to save you there. So we got In-N-Out.
Okay, 5
again, and then last but not least.
Okay, yeah, that's got to be 2 then. Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah.
The second I heard you put tacos number 1, I was like, it's a pretty solid one, but this last one might come back.
Yeah, of course I would have. The tacos, football, and barbecue. I mean, they're all equal. It's like 1 needed to be Texas, and then it needed to be 2, 2, 2, 5.
Yep. Yep. I was gonna put Whataburger there, but I felt like that was also another Texas strong staple. So yeah. I had to leave something for sacrifice. So In-N-Out made it again. All right. Well, that was the 5. What did you think of it?
Oh, it's fun. It's fun.
Well, it's always a fun little way to kind of freshen up, break up the interview afterwards, and really, get that nice mental reset. But, now's the chance to really dive into the nugget of knowledge. This is a tip that you would give somebody that's interested in jumping from, say, cottage and going full send with this.
Know what you got. Um, Go to the farmers markets. Don't listen to your friends. Don't listen to your work peers. Don't listen to your family. They are always going to tell you stuff's good. Usually, they're going to tell you it's good. Get strangers' feedback. And when they give it to you, listen to it, but don't listen to it. And what I mean by that is look at their body language, look at their eyes. When they put a sauce or anything in their mouth and they try it, you're always going to hear, yeah, that's good. Interesting, right? And then they'll walk off. But when you see those eyes light up, you can already pull that bottle back, right? And don't take it personally, right? So you've got to get out there, get it in front of other people. Other people. That's going to be your proving ground. And when you've got a product that finally you can say, wow, if you taste it, I got more than a 50% chance you're going to like it. Now you got something, right? And I made the mistake of, taking the chance of listening to one person, right? And then going and going. But you've got to listen to all those other people who have nothing vested by saying it's good, right? And no matter
Absolutely.
how nice and how polite they are, did they buy it?
Absolutely. Very well said. Okay. Well, now's your chance to put someone on the hot seat. This is someone that you think would make a great guest for the show.
So when you mentioned that, I went through and see who you'd interviewed, and there's so many people that I really admire and respect, but there's one you haven't had yet, and that's Old Bones Chilico. Reach out to Oscar. I think he'd be a fantastic guy on the show.
All right, Oscar, I'll be reaching out to line up a time to have you on the podcast. Thank you for that nomination, JP. Now, the last thing is, do you have anything you want to let those know that are watching and listening, and where can they find you?
Well, they can find us at www.texanheartland.com. Find us on Facebook. We're always mentioning the markets that we're going to be attending. So if you're in Northwest Houston, come on out to one of the markets. We'd love to see you and let you try all of our hot sauces and jams.
Thank you. Well, hey, JP, it has been an absolute honor to have you on here, and look forward to having you back. There's still so much more we can dive into, so thank you for coming on.
Thanks, Brandon.
JP, thank you so much for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure having you on here and learning about Texan Heartland, how you got started, where you're going, man, all the things in between. Absolute pleasure having you on here. Look forward to having you back and really diving deeper into your different products and where the future takes you. So, hey, if you enjoyed the Hot or Not tonight, I will have the direct links down below, as well as check out the full Texan Heartland lineup. I mean, you got to see a little bit during the podcast here of what the website shows, but there's still so much more on there. So if you want to dive a little bit deeper, head on over, follow Texan Heartland on socials, and see what JP has going on. But hey, don't forget, new episodes drop every Tuesday and Thursday night at 8 p.m. Central. Go ahead and continue to share this out with other like-minded chili heads. Continue to grow the overall community here. Thank y'all so much for being a part of this. I also want to give a shout out to our sponsors, webdx.one. If you're looking for a new website, your website's out of date, maybe you don't have one, highly recommend checking out webdx.one for all your needs, as well as they're able to help you out with automation systems for your small and medium business to continue to grow. Also want to give a shout out to podvision.io. If you are looking to grow your brand, start your brand, you hit a bump in the road, you're trying to figure things out, highly recommend checking out podvision.io for all your needs. I'm Brandon Swear, and from everything from the world of hot, this has been The Swear Word.